Welcome to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Sounds crazy, right? But what I'm about to show you might completely change the way you look at every single penny you've ever touched, because hidden among millions of ordinary coins is a 1948 1-cent coin from the United States that has stunned collectors, shocked experts, and quietly climbed into a value range so insane it almost feels unreal, with some versions being whispered about at levels approaching $50 million depending on rarity, condition, and the mysterious errors tied to it. And here's the wild part: most people would never even notice it if it slipped through their hands today. So before you even think about skipping ahead, stick with me, because not only will I break down exactly why this coin is so valuable, but later in this video we're diving into another penny that might be even more unbelievable. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next, because it gets crazier from here. Now let's rewind back to 1948, a time when the world was still recovering from the aftermath of World War II, economies were rebuilding, industries were booming again, and the United States Mint was producing coins in massive numbers to keep up with a rapidly growing economy. And among those coins was the Lincoln wheat penny, a design that had already become iconic since its introduction in 1909. Featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and two wheat stalks on the reverse, symbolizing prosperity and growth. But here's where things start to get interesting, because the 1948 penny might look like just another wheat cent at first glance, but certain rare variations turned it into a collector's dream and a hidden treasure that people are still hunting for today. You see, during the minting process, even the smallest mistake can create something incredibly rare, and in 1948 there were several unusual minting anomalies that slipped through unnoticed, including off-center strikes, double die errors where the design appears slightly duplicated, and even transitional planchet errors where coins were struck on the wrong type of metal blank. And these mistakes are exactly what collectors obsess over, because they turn an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind piece of history. And when you combine that with pristine condition, what collectors call mint state, the value can skyrocket beyond anything most people would ever imagine. One of the most talked about versions of the 1948 penny is the double die obverse, where the date and lettering appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. And while this might sound like a minor flaw, in the world of numismatics it's like hitting the jackpot, because it proves that the coin is unique, rare, and highly desirable. And when such a coin is found in near-perfect condition, it becomes the kind of piece that auction houses fight over and collectors are willing to pay outrageous amounts to own. But that's not all, because there are also rumors and documented cases of 1948 pennies struck on leftover wartime planchets, meaning the metal composition doesn't match what was supposed to be used that year. And these transitional errors are extremely rare, since they only occur when leftover materials accidentally get mixed into the production process. And finding one today would be like discovering a hidden relic from a completely different era embedded in an otherwise ordinary coin. And that's exactly the kind of story that drives values into the millions. Now imagine this for a second: you're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe going through your grandparents' belongings, and you find a small jar of old coins, nothing special at first glance, but tucked inside is a worn 1948 penny, and you almost toss it aside because it looks just like every other coin you've ever seen. But what if that coin had one of these rare errors? What if it had been preserved just well enough to still qualify as a high-grade specimen? What if you were holding something that collectors around the world would go absolutely crazy for? That's the kind of real-life scenario that keeps people searching and checking every single coin they come across, because stories like this have happened before, and they will happen again. Auction records over the years have shown that rare wheat pennies, especially those with unique errors and exceptional condition, can fetch staggering prices, and while not every 1948 penny is worth a fortune, the right combination of rarity, error, and preservation can push its value into a completely different universe, and that's why collectors don't just look at coins, they study them, they analyze every tiny detail, every marking, every imperfection, because sometimes those imperfections are exactly what make the coin perfect in the eyes of the market. And here's something that most people don't realize: condition is everything. A coin that has been heavily circulated and worn down might only be worth a few cents, but the same coin in mint condition, with sharp details and original luster, can be worth thousands or even millions depending on its rarity, and that's why proper storage, handling, and preservation play such a huge role in the world of coin collecting. Because once a coin is damaged or worn, it loses a significant portion of its potential value, and there's no way to reverse that. So if you're watching this right now, you might want to take a moment later to check your own collection, your old jars, your forgotten drawers, because coins like this don't come with warning signs, they don't glow or sparkle differently, they look completely normal until someone with knowledge takes a closer look, and that's when everything changes. And remember what I said earlier, this is just the beginning, because coming up next is another coin that takes things to a whole new level, one that has left even seasoned collectors scratching their heads, and while I'm not going to reveal its value just yet, let's just say if this 1948 penny surprised you, the next one might completely blow your mind. So don't go anywhere because the story is about to get even more unbelievable. Next, 2004 1-cent coin. What if I told you that a coin minted in a year you probably remember like yesterday could quietly be one of the most shocking hidden treasures in modern circulation, a coin so recent that people still overlook it every single day, yet under the right circumstances it has been associated with mind-blowing collector valuations climbing toward an unbelievable $60 million. And the craziest part is that millions of these coins were produced, meaning the difference between an ordinary penny and a life-changing discovery could come down to a detail so small most people would never even notice it. So before you brush this off as just another modern coin story, stick with me because what you're about to hear might make you rethink every coin you've handled in the last decade. The 2004 1-cent coin, part of the Lincoln Memorial series that ran from 1959 to 2008, might seem far too modern to carry serious value. After all, we're not talking about ancient history or wartime minting here, but that assumption is exactly what makes it so dangerous to ignore. Because modern coins can hide some of the most dramatic minting errors and experimental anomalies ever produced, and in 2004 the United States Mint was operating at an incredibly high production capacity, pushing out billions of pennies across facilities like Philadelphia and Denver, and whenever production scales that high, the chances of rare mistakes slipping through increase dramatically. Now here's where things get really interesting, because among the countless 2004 pennies, a tiny fraction were struck with unusual die variations and rare minting flaws that instantly separated them from the rest, including dramatic off-center strikes where the design is visibly shifted, clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to an error in the blank cutting process, and even double die varieties where certain elements like the date or lettering appear duplicated under magnification. And while these might sound like minor quirks, in the collector world they are absolute gold, because they prove that the coin is not just another mass-produced piece, but a rare anomaly that shouldn't even exist. One of the most talked about possibilities tied to 2004 pennies involves transitional metal errors, where a coin is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or composition, and although extremely rare, these types of mistakes have been documented in other years, and when they occur, they can send values skyrocketing into astronomical territory, especially when combined with near-perfect condition. And that's exactly the kind of scenario that fuels those jaw-dropping valuations you hear about, because collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying a story, a mistake, a moment in time that was never meant to happen. Imagine this: you're at a small shop, you get some change back, and there it is, a 2004 penny, nothing special at first glance, maybe a little shiny, maybe slightly worn, and you toss it into your pocket without a second thought. But what if that coin had a subtle doubling in the lettering, or a barely noticeable shift in its strike, or even a rare composition error that only a trained eye could detect? That single moment of overlooking it could mean missing out on something extraordinary, and that's exactly why collectors obsess over even the most modern coins, because rarity doesn't always come from age, sometimes it comes from error, from imperfection, from the unexpected. Over the years, there have been stories circulating in the numismatic community about collectors discovering modern coins with rare characteristics that went on to fetch astonishing sums at private sales and high-profile auctions, and while not every 2004 penny is valuable, the existence of these rare variations keeps the hunt alive, because all it takes is one coin with the right combination of factors to completely change everything, and that's the thrill that keeps people searching through rolls of pennies, checking their change, and never taking even the smallest coin for granted. Condition once again plays a massive role here, because a coin that has been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition holds far more potential than one that has been heavily used, and when you combine that with a rare error or anomaly, you're looking at a coin that could attract intense attention from collectors around the world, and that's where the real excitement begins, because competition drives value. And when multiple collectors want the same rare piece, the price can climb to levels that seem almost impossible to believe. So as you sit there watching this, maybe with a few coins nearby, it's worth asking yourself how many times you've handled a 2004 penny without even thinking twice, how many opportunities might have slipped through unnoticed, because the truth is, coins like this don't announce their value, they blend in, they hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with patience and curiosity to uncover their secrets. And that's what makes this world so fascinating, because treasure isn't always buried deep underground, sometimes it's sitting right there in your pocket. And now, as we reach the end of this journey, think about everything we've uncovered, from the historic mystery of the 1948 penny to the modern-day surprise of the 2004 coin, each one carrying its own story, its own hidden potential, and its own chance to completely change someone's life, because in the end, it's not just about the money, it's about the thrill of discovery, the connection to history, and the realization that something so small can hold such incredible significance, and that's what makes coin collecting not just a hobby, but an adventure that never truly ends.